Thanks for stopping by and checking out Maple Leafs Man Advantage. I am Hawkeye, and today in this video, I'm going to do the 1975 NHL Amateur Draft and take a look at that. This is going to be another big one, long one. I love these though. Sorry. Looking at who the Leafs drafted, who went first, who the Leafs should have maybe picked. I know hindsight is always 2020. And then for my own team, who I would draft. For my own Maple Leaf team, if I was the owner and general manager and all that. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing in today's video. And if you look over my shoulder here, look what I got. My niece, one of my nieces gave me it's like a poster from back in the day of Wendell Clark. He's a 1988 Molson Cup contender, I guess. It's good. Great picture. Looks like he's eyeing somebody up, ready to deliver a body check. But yeah, that's got to go up on the wall. So there he is. He's going to be hanging there for now. So, but I'll get this out of the way too. So if you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you hit like and subscribe. Definitely looking for some more subscribers here. I'm gonna be trying to keep throwing some videos down. Generally, it's about older stuff, but every now and again, I come in with some modern times with the Leafs and taking a look at them. And as well, if you want to comment on anything, go ahead and do so. It's always good to talk hockey or get an opinion from somebody on something in hockey as well. So that's all good. So. It was on June the 3rd, 1975, that the NHL Amateur Draft was held. And it was held at the NHL office in Montreal. It was usually held at a hotel, but it's now at the NHL offices. Um, Now, the Leafs worked out some deals that I will get to first um, that loaded up draft picks for them. They were very late in the draft, but they were getting extra draft picks. So that can never hurt, right? So Harold. Now for any young guys out there, any young people don't know who that is, that's Harold Ballard. I got a video on him on here. Look him up. There's documentaries on him, everything like that. But yes, he was throwing money around on this day to pick up these draft picks. So they made deals with the Chicago Blackhawks for their 10th and 11th round picks. Kansas City Scouts, the St. Louis Blues, and the Washington Capitals for their 12th round picks as well. I'm going to do the same. It's not my money. I'll get those draft picks, see who we can get, and see if there's anybody worth grabbing late in the draft. In addition, they worked out a deal with the Boston Bruins where Toronto acquired next year's third round pick, but they're going to give away their 1975, this particular draft's fourth round pick, and it would go to Boston. Now, Boston ended up selecting Rick Aduno. I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly. He played 4 games in the NHL. That's all. So I'm all for that. We're going to see maybe who we can pick up in next year's draft. So here we go. Now, the Philadelphia Flyers rocked the NHL landscape when they worked out a deal with the miserably brutal Washington Capitals. The Caps acquired center Bill Clement, defenseman Don McLean, and Philadelphia's first overall pick in this draft. The Flyers, in return, acquired the number 1 draft pick from the 1975 draft. Who would have went to? That's right, the Washington Capitals. So the Philadelphia Flyers, who are not a bad team, end up getting the first overall draft pick. Wonderful deal there. Bill Clement was a good player, but ooh, uh, not a good deal for the Caps on that one. Um, but first overall, well, I'll look at all the players here too. So for the Caps side of things, Bill Clement, he went on to play 490 more NHL games, scored 95 goals, including the 23 in this upcoming season. So he was still scoring 20 goals. He had an 156 for 251 points. He'd also be a two-time All-Star in 1976 and 78. Don McLean went to play just 9 NHL games, not much. And the Capitals drafted center Alex Forsyth, who went on to play just one NHL game. Now, the first overall pick just proves that it wasn't a good deal. Um, he alone outdid all those numbers there. The Philadelphia Flyers ended up drafting center Mel Bridgman. He went on to play 977 games, scoring 252 goals. His career high was 32. He got back in 1981-82. He added 449 assists for 701 points. He also accumulated 1,625 penalty minutes. So he wasn't afraid of the penalty box either. And that should fit in well with this bunch of bullies they got in Philadelphia. He even had 203 penalty minutes in 77-78. Well, these numbers don't exactly equate to a number one overall draft pick. Um, this was in actuality a quite a thin draft. And actually, no one from this draft year was ever entered into the Hockey Hall of Fame. So it is a thin draft. So the Leafs for this draft, even though they did make the playoffs, they get a good pick at number 6. That's not bad. So with their first selection, 1975 draft, the Leafs selected center Don Ashby. He was born in Kamloops, BC on March the 8th, 1955. He was known as Ants, and he played junior in the WCHL for the Calgary Centennials. Each season was a big improvement over the previous year. And in the 3 seasons, he played 174 games, scoring 92 goals, adding 118 assists for 210 points. In his final season, 74-75, he did really well. He scored 52 goals with 68 assists for 120 points in just 70 games. After making the NHL during the upcoming season for the Leafs, he went on to play 188 games, scoring 40 goals, adding 56 assists for 96 points. Sadly, though, Ashby died in a car crash in 1981. He was just 26 years old. And it's possible he may have played some more time in the NHL as that season the previous season, he had played 6 games for the Edmonton Oilers. He also played for the Colorado Rockies as well. So sadly, he died. He was only 26 years old. Very sad. Now, who the Leafs should have drafted, he ended up playing a little bit more time in the NHL, is they could have drafted right winger Rick Blight. He ended up playing 326 NHL games, scoring 96 goals. He was a three-time 20 goal scorer. He did it in consecutive seasons. Career high, he had 28 in 1960, no, 1976, 77. He also had 125 assists for 221 points. Um, Sorry, another sad story here with Rick Blight as well. Sadly, on April the 3rd, 2005, Rick did pass away. He ended up taking his own life. He was only 49 years of age at the time. Uh, so it's unfortunate. A couple of sad stories right here in the first round of the 1975 draft. So for my team in the first round, I would have the Vancouver Canucks first round pick. Um, I sent a few players over there last year. They would have improved the Canucks' fortunes last year for sure. But I would have, and I so like I would move Vancouver accordingly in my own mind. So I would have pick number 13. I'm guessing this with this selection, I would end up drafting center Tim Young. He was born on February the 22nd, 1955, in Scarborough, Ontario. He ended up playing 629 NHL games, scoring 195 goals, adding 341 assists for 536 points. He scored 31 goals for the Minnesota North Stars, who he played a majority of his career for and I believe he may have been drafted by them as well in 1979-80. And he was also an All-Star in 1977 as well. So with my own selection in the 1975 draft, I would end up selecting a goaltender in Bob Sauvé. He was born on June the 17th, 1955 in Saint Genevieve, Quebec. He ended up playing 420 NHL games. He won 182 of those, tied 54. He had an 875 save percentage, 3.49 goals against average, and 8 shutouts as well. He won the Vezina in 1979-80 along with his net-minding partner in Buffalo, Don Edwards. There's going to be more about him later. And he also won the Jennings in 1984-85 with his net-minding partner in Buffalo, a different guy at that time. It was Tom Barrasso as well. And he also had a 15-16 record in the playoffs as well. So to perhaps put him alongside Bernie Perron, who would be my goalie right now in Toronto, um, and maybe Reggie Lemlin. I got him in the minors as well. That might be ideal. That might work out pretty good. His brother J.F. Sauvé played 290 games in the NHL, scored 75 goals, played a few seasons together with the Buffalo Sabres. And his son Philippe also played in net in the NHL. And he played 32 games, grabbed 10 wins along the way. So in the second round, the Maple Leafs drafted center Doug Jarvis. That's right, he was drafted by the Leafs, which was a great pick. Born on March the 24th, 1955 in Brantford, Ontario, he played in the OHA for the Peterborough Petes for 3 seasons. He played 202 games there, scoring 96 goals, adding 190 assists for 286 points. Doug's best season for the Petes was in 1974-75 when he scored 45 goals, added 88 assists for 133 points in just 69 games. Doug ended up playing 964 games in the NHL. They were pretty much all consecutive. Like I looked up his stats, I was like 80, 80, 80, 80, 80, 80, 80. Like his whole career until the last season, he played like 2 games or something. And he had the record for the most consecutive games until, was it Phil Kessel? Ended up beating the record. Forget now exactly. I think it was. Um, but anyways, he also scored 139 goals. He did score 20 goals in 1981-82 for the Montreal Canadiens. That's the older folk. That's probably who they remember him playing with. He added 264 assists for 403 points. But it wasn't his offense he was known for. It was his defense. And I think he was a very good penalty killer at the same time. That's what helped out his team so much. He won the Selke in 1983-84 for the Washington Capitals, who was playing for them at the time, and the Bill Masterton in 1986-87 when he was playing with the Hartford Whalers. And I remember him playing with the Whalers at the very end of his career there. He also won 4 Stanley Cups with the Montreal Canadiens and played 105 playoff games where he had 14 goals, 27 assists, and 41 points. After his playing career, Doug stayed with the game and became an assistant coach for a number of teams, such as the Minnesota North Stars and then the Dallas Stars, which he won a cup with in 1999. So there's 5 cups. Montreal Canadiens came back there. Boston Bruins. That must have been a little odd for the Montreal Canadiens fans, but he won another cup in 2011. So there's 6 cups, and then the Vancouver Canucks. On a side note, his cousin Wes Jarvis also played in the NHL. He played 237 games, including some for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and scored 31 goals. For my pick in the second round, I would select a defenseman in Al Cameron. Born on October 21, 1955 in Edmonton, Alberta, he ended up playing 282 NHL games, scoring 11 goals with 44 assists for 55 points. He also grabbed 356 penalty minutes. He had won the Memorial Cup in 1975 with the new Westminster Bruins. Along with him on defense were future NHLers Barry Beck and Brad Maxwell. So they would have had a good decor on the Bruins there. That is for sure. So in the third round, I would have the Minnesota North Stars pick. And with this selection, I would choose another defenseman. I would select Mike O'Connell. Born on November the 25th, 1955 in Chicago, Illinois. He went on to play 860 NHL games, scoring 105 goals with 335 assists for 440 points. He was an All-Star in 1984, sorry. Mike also played 82 playoff games, scoring 8 goals with 24 assists for 32 points. I remember him playing with the Detroit Red Wings against the Leafs. I remember him, and I remember him. I seem to remember he didn't wear a helmet until the very end of his career, and I think he put on a Jofa, if I'm not mistaken. He was one of the last guys to not put on a lid in the NHL. But after his playing days, he was an assistant coach with the Boston Bruins in 1991-92, and he ended up being their head coach in 2002, 03, 2002 and 03, that particular season for the last handful of games, and then the playoffs. So in the third round, the Leafs selected center Bruce Boudreau, born on January the 9th, 1955, right in Toronto. He was also known as Gaddy. I think that's because he liked to talk, I think. He had played for the Toronto Marlboros of the OHA for 3 seasons, and it looks like he must have played some great hockey for them. He played in 183 games where he scored 149 goals and 213 assists for an incredible 362 points. Um, in his final season, 74-75, he scored 68 goals in just 69 games with 97 assists for 165 points. He did go on to the WHA after he was drafted. He played 1 season with the Minnesota Fighting Saints, played 30 games, scored 3 goals with 6 assists for 9 points. But then he came to the NHL and he ended up playing 141 games, tallied 28 goals with 42 assists for 70 points. Along with the Leafs, Bruce also played with the Chicago Blackhawks. I've seen him play, and I've seen him play 5 or 6 games in the NHL. Um, and I kind of always liked what I saw. Like, I'm not sure if I just saw the right games. Um, but he certainly looked like he had some skill, some speed, some ability out on the ice. Um, but he might have been one of those guys who he did play 141 NHL games, but I don't know if he's given a real solid chance. He was at Toronto for a long time and could get handful of games there, maybe 20 games here, 5 games in this season. It wasn't a real okay, this is your chance, kid. Really, that I see. Um, but um, um, but what Bruce was definitely known for was coaching. He coached the Washington Capitals from 2007 to 2012, the Anaheim Ducks from 2011. The following season, I think 2016, I got the wrong number there. Minnesota Wild from 2016 to 2020, and finally the Vancouver Canucks from 2021-23. Um, he has a record of 617 wins, 342 losses, and 128 overtime or shootout losses. Um, he has finished in first place at the end of the year 8 times over his career. He just unfortunately wasn't able to translate that into a good run in a cup win at any point, unfortunately. Um, Now, with this selection, the Leafs should have drafted Mike O'Connell. Um, could have drafted him, but I would say don't bring him right up to the league like they like to do. Leave him in the minors, let him develop for a season or two, and then bring him up. But that's the pick they should have made there. So my pick in the third round would have been right winger Pat Hughes. He was born on March the 25th, 1955 in Calgary, Alberta. He went on to play 573 games and scored 130, goals. He was a three-time 20 goal scorer, including the 27 he scored for the Edmonton Oilers in 1983-84. He also grabbed 128 assists for 258 points. In addition, he had 646 penalty minutes. He ended up winning three cups. He won the 79 Montreal Canadiens Cup and the 1984 and 85 Cups with the Edmonton Oilers. In the playoffs, he played 71 games, scoring 8 goals to go with 19 assists for 27 points. I would also have the North Stars fourth round selection. At pick number 58, I would select who the North Stars went with, and that was left winger Steve Jensen. Born on April 14th, 1955, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, he would go on to play 438 NHL games, score 113 goals. He was a three-time 20-goal scorer, had his career high 23 in 1978-79 for the LA Kings, at 108 assists for 221 points. Next in the fourth round would be the St. Louis Blues selection that I grabbed in a trade. So with the number 63 pick, I would end up selecting right winger Rick Bourbanet. I think that's how you say it. Sorry. Born on April the 20th, 1955, right in Toronto. He ended up playing 71 NHL games, scoring 9 goals with 15 assists for 24 points. I would also have the Pittsburgh Penguins fourth round selection. With this pick, I would end up selecting who the Pens selected in left winger Stu Younger from Long Branch, New Jersey. He never did end up suiting up in the NHL, unfortunately. But a story about a guy just 4 picks after. This was Greg Neal, I believe is how you say his name, which is incredible to me as he was drafted by the Buffalo Sabres, even though he had only one eye. There was a rule even back then. You have to have vision in 2 eyes to be able to play in the NHL, and he only had one eye. He lost it during a game in which he was high sticked by future NHLer Dave Maloney. So Greg wasn't able to play in the NHL, but you know what? He was able to play in the WHA, and he played 17 games for the Toronto Toros. And from what I know, he had like a full face shield as well, like the full thing to protect that other eye. But that's an interesting story. Greg Neal was drafted and had only one eye. So I would have the LA Kings fourth round pick as well from a previous trade. With this selection, I would just wait to make a bit of a splash on my next pick in the fifth round. But here I will just go with who was drafted, and that was center Andre Leduc, born on April the 12th, 1955 in Amos, Quebec. Um, may have been more of a shutdown defenseman looking at his numbers. He did get 210 penalty minutes in his final season in junior with the Sherbrooke Casters. And it looks like he did win a Memorial Cup with that squad, but he never did suit up in the NHL. So in the fifth round, I would have the Minnesota North Stars pick. With the number 76 pick, I would select right winger Willie Platt. Born on June the 7th, 1955, in Asunción, Paraguay. I believe I pronounced that correctly. But he grew up in Niagara on the Lake. He moved there when he was like 1 year old, I believe. But he didn't start playing organized hockey until he was 12 years old, and went on to be drafted and play in the NHL, have a good career. He played 834 games. He scored 222 goals. He had 38 for the Calgary Flames in 1980-81. He had 215 assists for 437 points. He also had 2,570 penalty minutes, including the 316 he had in 1983-84 for the Minnesota North Stars. Um, he ended up playing a few playoffs as well, and he played in 83 games, scoring 24 goals with 22 assists for 46 points, and had a whopping 466 penalty minutes. Wow. Willie also won the Calder Trophy, Rookie of the Year in 1976-77 when he had 33 goals. I think I remember him with the Minnesota North Stars playing the Leafs. I think I remember that. But I also remember he was one tough hombre, big man, and wasn't afraid to get into the tussle. So that's who I would draft first off in the fifth round. Now, for the Leafs in the fifth round, they had pick number 78. With this selection, they ended up selecting a defenseman in Ted Long. Born on January the 26th, 1955 in Woodstock, Ontario, Ted had played 3 seasons for the Hamilton Red Wings. They then became the Finn Cups. Together, he played 103 games, scoring 14 goals, adding 54 assists for 68 points. After he was drafted, he was left to play with the Finn Cups for another season, further development. He did quite well. He got 27 goals, 64 assists, and 91 points in just 62 games. Ted never did play a game in the NHL, but he did suit up for one game for the Cincinnati Stingers in the WHA in 1976-77. So with this selection, the Leafs, they should have selected Willie Platt. Not just Ted. He would have been an excellent draft pick for them. So also in the fifth round, I would have the St. Louis Blues pick at pick number 81. I would have ended up selecting defenseman Slick. Hold on, let's try that again. I would end up selecting defenseman Kim Claxon. He was born on January the 13th, 1955 in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. He did jump over to the WHA and play for the Indianapolis Racers and the Winnipeg Jets in total for 4 seasons. Um, he played 271 games there, scoring 6 goals with 39 assists for 45 points. Kim, it looks like, loved the penalty box, and he accumulated 932 penalty minutes in just 4 seasons. He had 351 for the Racers in 1975-76. After the WHA folded, he came over to the NHL and played 106 games, getting 8 assists and 370 penalty minutes. He had 204 for the Quebec Nordique in 1980-81. So he'd be a big, tough defenseman you could put on the back end there. Um, so I'll go with him. And also in the fifth round, there's a few picks here. I would also have the Pittsburgh Penguins at pick number 85. I would end up selecting left winger Stan Jonathan. Man, I'm getting pretty tough, and I like the goalies I got too. Um, Getting some good picks here. Going to be a tough team, that is for sure. He was born on September the 5th, 1955 in Oswego, Ontario. Stan ended up playing 411 NHL games, scoring 91 goals, adding 110 assists for 201 points. Like I said, I am adding toughness here. He was aptly nicknamed Bulldog, as he also accumulated 751 penalty minutes. He was a two-time 20-goal scorer, having a career-high 27 in 1977-78 for the Boston Bruins, who ended up drafting him, and that would be who he was known for playing with. He had 21 in 1979-80 as well, when he also had 208 penalty minutes. He also played 62 playoff games, scoring 8 goals with 4 assists for 12 points and 137 penalty minutes. So, with my selection in the fifth round, I was just mentioning I like the toughness, I like the goalies I'm drafting. So, why not draft another goalie? Okay, sure, let's go for it. Um, I'm going to go with the goalie, Don Edwards. He was born on September the 28th, 1955, in Hamilton, Ontario. He ended up playing 459 NHL games. He won 208 of them, tying 74. He also had an 887 save percentage, 3.32 goals against average. Um, and he won the Calder with Bob Sauve in 1979-80. I already mentioned that. And he was an All-Star 2 times, 1980 and 1982. In 1977-78, he was at the top of his game as he led the NHL in games played. He played an incredible 72 out of, I think they played 80 in total. He also had 38 wins that season. In 1980-81, along with Chico Resch, he led the NHL with 3 shutouts as well. He did play his NHL season with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I've seen him play. Unfortunately, though, the best days were behind him. I think he wasn't old, but he was 30. That was also not young when he ended up playing in Toronto. Um, he also had a 16-21 record in the playoffs with 1 shutout, 882 save percentage, and a 3.46 goals against average in the playoffs. I've mentioned his uncle in other videos as well. His uncle was Roy Edwards, who spent most of his career with the Detroit Red Wings. He played in 236 games, winning 96 of them. So it's possible either Edwards or Sauve or Lemlin put them with Perron. Perron's still got a little bit of time under his wing, so maybe we're going to see more than one of those guys. Um, but it will be interesting to see how this pans out. But after his playing days, Don became an assistant coach with the LA Kings from 1997, sorry, to 99, and was the goalie coach for a partial season for the Carolina Hurricanes, 2003, 2004. There you have it, the 5th round. So we're going to jump into the 6th round. The Leafs selected defenseman Kevin Campbell. Born in New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, he played for the St. Lawrence University for 2 seasons before he was drafted. During that time, he played 46 games with 9 goals, 16 assists for 25 points to go along with 81 penalty minutes. After he was drafted, he played 2 more seasons for the St. Lawrence University, playing 51 games, scoring 13 goals with 30 assists for 43 points. Sadly for Kevin, he never did end up playing a game in the NHL. With this selection, the Leafs could have drafted another defenseman that did end up putting up some time in the NHL, and that was Jack Brown's Cheadle. I think is how you say his name. I don't remember him. I apologize for mispronouncing his name. I mangle names well. He ended up playing 494 NHL games, scoring 39 goals with 162 assists for 201 points. He may be a good option on the back end in the late 70s, early 80s in Toronto. A good spot for him. So for my team in the 6th round, I'm going to make a great mid-draft selection. Go with another tough guy. Oh boy. We're going to go with Paul Holmgren. He was born on December the 2nd, 1955 in St. Paul, Minnesota. He was nicknamed Bam Bam. Good nickname for him. He did go over to the WHA this upcoming season for the Minnesota Fighting Saints. There he played 51 games, scoring 14 goals with 16 assists to get 30 points to go along with 121 penalty minutes. In the end, though, he did jump back over to the NHL and played 1 game for the Philadelphia Flyers, who drafted him. Um, and then he stayed in the NHL. In total, Paul played 527 NHL games, scoring 144 goals. He had 30 in 1979 80 for the Flyers. He also had 179 assists for 323 points. He also lived a bit in the sin bin as he had 1,684 penalty minutes. In 1980-81, he had 306 penalty minutes. He also played in the 1981 All-Star game. He played in 82 playoff games, scoring 19 goals with 32 assists for 51 points and 195 penalty minutes. Paul went into coaching after his playing days were done. Ended up coaching the first the Philadelphia Flyers for parts of 4 seasons, so 1988 through 1992, and then the Hartford Whalers for parts of 4 seasons as well, from 1992 through 96. He had a career record of 161, 219, and 45 with a 432 winning percentage, and that's Paul Holmgren. So we're going to get into the 7th round here. And the Leafs had the 114th pick. With this pick, they chose right winger Mario Rouillard. Um, Born on March 29, 1955, in Saint Jean, Quebec, he put up some numbers in junior in QMJHL, playing for the Trois Rivières Duke for 4 seasons. He played 245 games, scoring 123 goals, adding 167 assists for 290 points. He also had 326 penalty minutes during that time. His final season, Mario scored 52 goals and 118 points in 72 games. Unfortunately, this did not translate into making the NHL for him. Um, the Leafs could have drafted left winger Ted Bully. He ended up playing 414 NHL games, scoring 101 goals with 113 assists for 214 points. He also had 704 penalty minutes, so maybe he had the right last name in Bully. He was a two-time 20-goal scorer and had a career high 27 in 1978-79 for the Chicago Blackhawks, who I believe drafted him. So in the seventh round for my team, I would end up selecting Dave Faulkner. Born in Shaunavon, Saskatchewan on April the 3rd, 1955, he did not end up playing in the NHL, and no one around him did either, so I'm just going to go with who was selected. He did play a lot of time in the IHL through the 70s, the early part of the 80s, but I saw in 1978-79 he won the AHL championship with the Maine Mariners, which I believe is the Philadelphia Flyers baby club, their minor team. Um, by looking at the squad, I saw who was in net. He had Pete Peters, Rick St. Croix, who would later play with the Flyers, and coaching. Another guy that was going up to the Flyers was Pat Quinn, who would later coach the Leafs as well. So we're going to go into the eighth round now, and the Maple Leafs selected defenseman Ron Wilson, who later coached the Leafs during the stretch there. So he was born on May the 28th, 1955, in Windsor, Ontario. Ron played 4 seasons at Providence College, where he played 111 games and actually showed some excellent offensive promise, scoring 78 goals. He's a defenseman, remember, adding 172 assists for 250 points. Rod, Ron also wasn't afraid to pick up a penalty minute here and there when he was in college. He had 118 penalty minutes. Um, so in the NHL, Ron did play 177 games, scored 26 goals to go with 67 assists for 93 points. Not bad for only playing 177 games, I gotta say. Ron's father, Larry, who was from Kincardine, Ontario, also played in the NHL. He played 152 games, scored 21 goals. Ron's uncle, might be better known, was Johnny Wilson, also from Kincardine. Um, he ended up playing 688 games and scored 161 goals. He won 4 cups with the Detroit Red Wings. Johnny even coached in both the NHL and the WHA as well. So after Ron's playing days, got into coaching. He was the first ever coach for the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. Coached them for 4 seasons from 1993 through 97. Coached the Washington Capitals for 5 seasons, 1997 through 2002. Uh, Losing in the finals in his very first season of coaching there to I think it was, if I remember correctly, the Detroit Red Wings. They had a real great squad in Detroit then. He also coached the San Jose Sharks for 5 seasons. So that was 2002 through '04, 2005 through '08, and finally for the Leafs for 4 seasons, 2008 through 2012. It seems like he coached longer there. Like it seemed like he was there a couple more years than that. Those were tough days. I'm not blaming Ron for that, but those were 10 tough years with no playoffs. And that whole playing time, if you're old enough, is just sort of maybe if you're old like me, it's just drifted away and you don't remember. You really got to sit and remember some of those times we didn't see the playoffs and we were um, just good enough to miss out, um, and just not good enough to get a good draft pick out there. But yeah, those were tough years. I don't want to dwell on that, that's for sure. So, anyways, but Ron was the correct pick with this choice. Oh, and his career record is 648 wins, 561 losses, 101 ties, and 91 losses in overtime or shootout as well. So I would have selected in the eighth round a defenseman on my own. And there might be some similarities between the two guys here. His name was Craig Norwich. He was born on December the 15th, 1955 in Edina, Minnesota. He started up playing in the WHA until it folded. Um, so he spent 2 seasons there with the Cincinnati Stingers. He played 145 games, scoring 13 goals, adding 74 assists for 87 points. He then came to the NHL and played 2 seasons, playing 104 games, scoring 17 goals, adding 58 assists for 75 points. That's pretty good for 104 games and being a defenseman. Not sure why, but he showed good offense from the back end. In his plus minus, I know that's not a stat to lean on or get all your information from for sure. It can be very deceptive, um, but it wasn't bad, and he wasn't playing on great teams, um, making me wonder why he wasn't given a better chance in the NHL. I'm not sure. It's like Ron. I've seen Ron play. He looked good on the back end offensively. Like he could really move and dish the puck and was quick with the puck, quick with the stick in moving the puck. But I just wonder if they were similar, as in at that time in hockey, were they too soft to for the coaches to feel confident in putting them out on the ice for long periods of time? Because I'll tell you, if Ron Wilson was coming into the league now, I think he would be a star. He would be an all-star. He would be on somebody's number one decor, and he'd be putting up good points. But that's now, that wasn't then. And I wonder if they were similar in that respect, the two of these guys. Um, so for Craig, his NHL career was over and he was only 25 years old. So Craig went to Europe and played hockey overseas, and it looks like he performed excellent hockey over there in Europe. And maybe his style was more conducive to the European game at that time than it was playing eat 'em and drag 'em out hockey like they were doing in the 70s and 80s for Craig. I'm not sure though. Maybe you know, I don't. Um, Now, Craig would be lost to the WHA and then the NHL as he went to the Winnipeg Jets. Um, but hey, I think this is the best player to get at this selection, so that's who I'm going to go with. So we're going to go jump into the ninth round now. And the Leafs selected forward Paul Evans, born on February the 24th, 1955, in Peterborough, Ontario. He played for his hometown club, the Petes, for 3 seasons and played 139 games, scoring 40 goals, adding 100 assists for 140 points. It was probably his bruiser mentality that may have been his biggest asset, though, as he grabbed 373 penalty minutes. Paul then played 11 games in the NHL. He grabbed a goal and assist for 2 points and 21 penalty minutes. Now, Paul had two brothers, Kevin. He played 9 games with 44 penalty minutes. But the most success, or the most well known, would have been his brother Doug. He played 355 games in the NHL with 502 penalty minutes. So he had three tough brothers in the NHL. So for me in the ninth round, I would end up selecting who went there, and that was defenseman Sean Sullivan. He was born on May the 4th, 1955, in Thorold, Ontario, and unfortunately, Sean never did make the NHL. So we'll get into the 10th round now, and the Leafs had 2 picks, and I'm going to take this one too. The first one was from the Blackhawks. Um, Unfortunately, there's nobody around this pick that made the NHL. So we'll just go with who the Leafs selected, and that was defenseman Jean Latendresse, born in Repentigny, Quebec. He played 3 seasons in the QMJHL, played 192 games, scoring 8 goals with 43 assists. for 51 points. Jean liked living in the penalty box, though, as he had 642 penalty minutes in just 3 seasons. He scooped up 314 in 1974-75 before he was drafted. So, with the Leafs' own selection, they chose right winger Paul Crowley. Born on December 26, 1955 in Montreal, Quebec. He played 2 seasons for the Sudbury Wolves of the OHA. He played 135 games, scoring 46 goals, adding 66 assists for 112 points, and garnered 202 penalty minutes. Paul never did play a game in the NHL, but he did play 4 games for the Toronto Toros of the WHA during the 1975-76 season. And he did become an assistant coach for the Barrie Colts of the OHL in 1999-2000. Um, but yeah, nobody else around him made the NHL either. So there you have it. So for my own selection in the 10th round, I'm just going to go with another goalie here. I'm drafting them left, right, and center. We're going to go with Brian Petrovic. He was from Norwood, Massachusetts. He ended up playing 3 seasons for Harvard University, but he never did end up playing a game in the NHL. So we're going to jump into the 11th round here. We're getting close to the end here, guys. Um, and the Leafs, with selection number 179, they selected center Dan DeAlves, born on March the 9th, 1955, in New Toronto, Ontario. He ended up playing for the University of Toronto for 2 seasons, but never did play a game in the NHL. No one around Dan made enough of an NHL impact to make a difference or to make you say, hey, you should have drafted that guy. So we'll just stick with who they drafted at that selection. So for my own pick in the 11th round, I'm going to go with who was selected, and that was right wing Jackie Lane. And he played for the Bowling Green State University for 4 seasons. And he played 134 games, scoring 53 goals, adding 50 assists, and in total had 103 points and also 172 penalty minutes. Jackie as well never did play a game in the NHL. So that was the 11th round. So we're going to go into that was the Leafs pick. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. So my pick in the 11th round would be right winger Tom Goddard. He was from Thief River Falls. Love that name. Minnesota. Tom ended up playing 3 seasons in the University of North Dakota, but never did play in the NHL. So in the 12th round, the Leafs have 4 picks. I'm going to take 4 as well. See if there's anybody in the 12th round we can grab. It's really late here, guys, but the first selection in the round ended up being goalie Ken Holland. He was born on November the 10th, 1955 in Vernon, BC. He played in the WCHL for the Medicine Hat Tigers for 2 seasons, where he played 78 games and he won 45 of them, tying 5 and getting 3 shutouts. He had an 880 save percentage and a 4.05 goals against average, so they must have scored a lot of goals in Western hockey back then. He ended up playing 4 games in the NHL and got a tie. Ken, though, he's known for his time with the Detroit Red Wings and was their general manager from 1997 through 2019, and was also the Edmonton Oilers general manager from uh, 2019 to 2024, and was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2020. Has 3 Stanley Cups as well with the Detroit Red Wings. So next pick was from the Cincinnati Scouts, or Kansas City Scouts. There we go. And the Leafs drafted defenseman Bob Barnes. Born in Toronto, he played 4 seasons in the OHA, playing 108 games, scoring 4 goals, adding 32 assists for 36 points. He also had 137 penalty minutes. One thing I'm noticing is that almost every player is being called for more penalties now than in earlier drafts. Um, and maybe by chance, maybe the refs are calling things harder. I don't think so. I think the game is becoming more physical or more reckless on the ice. But Bob, though, he never did play a game in the NHL. So a couple picks later is the Leafs' very own selection, and they went with forward Gary Burns. He was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and played for the University of New Hampshire for 4 seasons. Excuse me. There, he played 127 games, scored 41 goals, added 52 assists for 93 points, and grabbed 157 penalty minutes. Gary went on to play 11 games in the NHL, scored 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points, and got 18 penalty minutes as well along the way. Last pick at that selection. So Leafs next pick was from the St. Louis Blues, and they picked center Jim Montgomery from Toronto. That's not the Jim Montgomery that I think is coaching St. Louis right now. Um, but I wouldn't change this pick as there was no one else drafted around him that made any impact in the NHL either. Um, while he never did play a game in the NHL, Jim did play in the OHA for the Hamilton Red Wings for 4 games, scored a goal. He then jumped over to the QMJHL for 2 seasons and played for the Laval National and Hall Festivals. He played 89 games, but he was still able to score 62 goals, grab 95 assists for 157 points, and 106 penalty minutes. Jim Lowe put together a sweet 1974-75 season for the Festival. He scored 61 goals with 89 assists for 150 points with 95 penalty minutes in just 66 games. So my own selection in the 12th round, I would end up selecting another goalie. Let's go. This time it would be Mario Vins, born on August the 7th, 1955 in Cornwall, Ontario. He played 4 seasons in the QMJHL for his hometown Cornwall Royals. He never did play for the NHL, but he did play in the WHA for the Toronto Toros. It looks like it was a tough season for him, or it wasn't a good team. Might have been both. He played 26 games, but he grabbed only 4 wins, 3 ties, and he had a 5.13 goals against average. So there you go. So then we're now in the final round for the Leafs in this draft. This has been a long one. 13th round. In the final pick the Leafs made, they selected right wing Rick Martin. And unfortunately, this isn't the Rick Martin that went on to play in Buffalo, but this Rick Martin was born right in Toronto. He played 4 seasons in the OHA for the London Knights. He played 152 games, scoring 32 goals, adding 44 assists for 76 points. Rick unfortunately never did play a game in the NHL. So my own selection with my last pick, I would draft winger Chuck Carpenter. Born on October the 3rd, 1955 in Madison, Wisconsin, he went on to play 3 seasons at Yale University, but he never did play in the NHL either. So the end of that draft was pretty tough. Not a lot of guys to choose over and get at, but there was still some really good picks in there, some really good players, some tough guys I was able to get hold of, and a couple of good goalies. So there we have it. That was the 1975 NHL Amateur Draft, and I'm going to bring up a screen now showing all the draft picks that are in my system for my team. There's going to be a ton of them. And then we'll get to the next season, the 1975-76 season. Let's see how it went for Toronto. But until next time, go Leafs go.